Hey mate.
Good to see ya.
You too.
What's happening?
Not much. We're sitting here at Wabiri, just been out for a little surf. Been hanging out the last few days.
Foil Paradise.
Foil Paradise.
Northwest WA.
Yeah. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm Will, I'm manager of Stand Up Surf Shop, here with Shannon, aka Larry Foiler.
That's me.
LF Supply and all the good stuff. And we're just going to have a chat today. I want to chat to you about what it is that keeps you coming back to the ocean. Why is it that you've got into foiling? What's your passion?
Yeah, I guess my foil story goes back maybe 3 years ago when you started to see those first Kai Lenny videos on YouTube and on Instagram and stuff, and like everyone, you're just like captivated by it. It's like, what is this wizardry with this guy flying above the water? And I think at first it was like, that's something that only like freaks could do. And then started to realise it was a bit more mainstream this time, because foiling, we'd seen it like 20 odd years ago with guys like Led Hamilton and those guys with boots, and it looked a bit gnarly.
Yeah.
But then Kai Lenny made it a bit more accessible for average Joes like us, and I couldn't ignore those videos any longer, and I had to get on board. So I just jumped in the deep end. When I did it 3 years ago, I don't think many shops had gear. I had to buy my gear online, and I jumped in the deep end. I bought the stuff and thought, I'm just going to learn this.
Tell us about your first session.
First session actually went pretty good, and I still have footage of that, because my first session I had my wife Jade drive me around in our little boat in some flat water, and I towed behind the boat for an hour. John Messenger, who's a foil legend, kite legend in Australia, he gave me some really good tips on getting out there behind the boat to start off with, and I took his advice, and it was really, really helpful to just go behind a boat for a good hour or so, learn the balance of the foil, and I went pretty good in that first session behind the boat. I managed to stay up for like 5-10 minute blocks at a time and really feel out the foil, which meant that when I took it into the waves for the first time, I had a little bit of an understanding of what I was up for.
Yeah, nice.
But not completely, because foiling has that way of humbling everybody. So, but yeah, first few sessions were pretty good.
Yeah, sweet. And you've been up this part of the world a whole bunch of times with the family, hanging out. What is it that you love about Northwest WA? We're looking out at the beach, by the way. There's people surfing.
It is
just
so
about
good.
enough wind to ding.
Well, it's not even 9 o'clock in the morning. We've already had breakfast, had a foil session, and we're already considering our second session of the day. The wind's coming up, so we might be wind foiling later too. So this place is unreal. Like we've been coming out with my family for probably 10 years or so, and this particular spot, like the last 6 or 7 years. About 2 years ago was the first time I brought my foil gear on one of these trips, and it was normally like fishing or bringing our boat or surfing, and then started to see that in this where we are now in Exmouth, there's maybe like 1 or 2 surf spots for surfboards, but there's a whole bunch of foil waves that were ready to be tapped into, and no one was riding them. So yeah, started bringing the foil board along, and oh my goodness, there's so many options up here, it's crazy.
It's nice. So I've been up for about 3 days, and I think we surfed about 4 different spots, 5 different spots, winged a couple more.
Yep, 2 to 3 sessions a day. I didn't realise how knackered I was until that session this morning so I think I had 2 sessions yesterday and 3 sessions the day before, so I'm getting too old for that. So I'm going to just limit myself to 1 a day now.
Yeah, just enjoy. It's like a good coffee, isn't it?
Oh,
just 1 in the morning,
yeah,
and you're done.
Well, coffee's different for me. I could definitely go multiple.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. Like, geez, warm water, warm weather, sun, and like endless supply waves.
Yeah, awesome. I've seen your family out in the surf having a foil. What do you think the future's like for young people getting into foiling?
I think as a family sport, it's been good for us. Like, my kids have watched me foil since day one and always been interested in it and wanted to do it, and I kind of held off a little bit because it's a bit intimidating foiling for the average person. I think most people see it and think it looks dangerous or whatever, but it's actually not. My girls started foiling, my youngest, when she was 8, and that was just behind a boat, sort of safe environment, taking it easy, nice and slow. And kids these days are crazy. They can pick things up so fast, and it soon became evident to me that they were ready to go straight in the surf. So after 1 or 2 goes behind the boat, I just let them take my gear out at this spot actually about 2 years ago, and you know, what took me 6 months to learn, it took them about half an hour, and they were paddling into waves on their own, and they've just got the balance, and natural skill to pick it up.
Yeah,
And
sweet.
yeah, it's great for the family. We can all, the gear's all interchangeable, so we can all basically ride the same stuff. Yeah, it's great. It's so nice to be able to go out with the family. My wife will be out on the longboard, and the girls will either be on a longboard or a foil board too. And yeah, just share the stoke. And foiling allows you to go to those spots where it's not crowded as well. You can sneak off as a family and go and find like really gentle, fun waves and away from the crowds a little bit. So that's good. Yeah.
Magic. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, no worries. What else can we talk about?
We can. Well, one of the questions that we get all the time is people see others out foiling and they're like, "Nah, it's impossible. I can't do it."
Yeah.
Love you to share just your thoughts on like the insights on how accessible this sport is for and for who.
Yeah, I think it's accessible for everybody, because I know people that are in their 60s and 70s that are foiling, and they might start off on a SUP, stand-up paddle foil. That's I think a really good way to get into it. A lot of people have stand-up paddled before, and if you stand-up paddle before, you can easily progress to SUP foiling.
Yep.
That's one really good way to get into it. I think it's accessible for everybody. The equipment now is very user-friendly. Anyone that's surfed before could definitely get into it. Yeah, it's there for if you're interested in it. I just tell people to have a go. It's definitely not as hard as it looks.
Yep.
It's very frustrating your first one or two goes, and that's like anything. But the rewards are definitely worth it. It's worth persisting and learning it. Just start off a nice big floaty board, something big and safe, and it's just you just get out there and try it. And the best part is the foil community is so friendly. You can just see another foiler that you've never met before, but you've got that instant connection, and you can go and sit next to them in the surf and get on and have like a good chat because you're on the same page. And I find, like, as opposed to surfing, everyone's a bit more secretive and they like to sneak off and try and surf on their own. Like with foiling, you see another foiler and you go out and you're like, you can drop in on each other and have party waves, and it just makes it more fun.
Yep.
So that's probably my favourite thing about foiling is actually the people that you meet, and the community and the good vibes that you get in the water, as opposed to surfing. If you go for a 3-hour surf and go home frustrated and angry because you got 2 waves and someone out there annoyed you, but you go foiling for half an hour and you're totally exhausted, you've had your daily exercise, and you go home on such a high, because the bang for buck, every minute you're out there, you're having fun. You're not sitting waiting. You're constantly
moving,
riding and having a good time. So
the thing I love about it as well is that I get to go out in the water with people like yourself and Marcus that can pump around and make us all look a bit average, and then some of us that can surf a little bit, and guys on this trip that have never been in the water before really with a foil.
Yeah.
And we're all
I love it. Like
fun.
I get so excited when I see people progress foiling as well. And I've seen it through my kids, but even complete strangers will come up and ask for advice out there or a pointer or whatever. And I just love it when you see someone get their first glide. Like they'll tell you they're nervous, they've never done it before, they're still trying, and then you'll see them get up and get that balance point and get their first glide. And like, I get so pumped because I know how they feel in that moment. Yeah. So. Like I saw you get some pretty good ones yesterday. I saw you get boosted off a few times, but then I saw you get some nice long glides and even pumping back out. And I'm like, yeah, well, like I just get pumped. I love seeing people have fun with this sport. So, yeah, I don't know. It's so good. You can go out in like any conditions and have a ball.
Yep.
I think that's the best part. It just opens up it's more accessibility for people.
Totally.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Thanks for coming up on the trip.
No worries. Thanks for having me. This trip's been unreal. Like we've scored all day, every day.
Yeah.
We should for sure do it again.
Well, we're going to be booking next year.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll let you know when that is.
I think it's going to happen. I've seen nothing but happy people on this one, like frothing. So yeah, I think anyone that's thinking about doing a trip like this, or even thinking about getting into foiling, I reckon a trip like this is so good because you're hanging out with like-minded people.
Yep.
You've got some people that are really, really good and experienced, and then you've got total novices and everything in between, but it's a level playing field. Like everyone's there for everyone to have fun. So, sometimes we'll make a decision to go to a fun spot so those that need to progress can have that time in the water.
Yep.
And then, if it's also cool to see the good guys go out and like shred a little bit when the conditions, allow for it. So
yeah, you can learn so much from that as well.
Yeah, we're seeing everything. I just love watching what other people are doing with foiling and different equipment. There's all the gear. That's probably another thing that we didn't talk about is how much different gear is out there, and it's hard to choose the gear without knowing. So I think a trip like this where people can try like 5 different brands And within those brands, they can try about 5 different setups. So it's like
crazy,
infinite the amount of gear, and everyone's different. So it's good to be able to try different wings, different foils, different boards, all in one go. So you can go out 3 times today and ride 3 different setups and figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
I think that is, good opportunity to actually get your head around it personally. You can take as much advice as you can from the internet or us in the shop and whatnot. But if you've experienced it, you know what you're in for. So.
But definitely, I think there's a lot to be said for going into a shop and talking to people about the equipment and holding stuff and feeling stuff, because I don't know, online purchases you can like kind of roll the dice a little bit. It is good to be able to walk into a shop and have a rack of 10 brands and touch stuff and feel stuff and talk to the shop guys about the manufacturing process or the materials used or what each specific shape wing might do opposed to another one, and at least you're on the right track that way. So I think that's really important as well.
Well, me and Marcus have made it a name while we're up here to ride as much gear as we can. So that
I've noticed it. I've been a bit jealous. I've seen every time you guys are out, like, it's different equipment, and it's cool to see how it works different. Everything's so crazy, like it's different. But it's the only way to learn is to try as much different stuff as you can. So,
that's it.
Awesome.
We'll get on some more gear.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
No worries.
Pleasure.
Been epic. Let's do this again.
Next.